I want you to picture a scene for a second, like really put yourself in this room. Imagine a group of deeply sleep-deprived teenagers.
Okay, I can picture that.
They are crammed into this tiny, unventilated room that is literally the size of a single tatami mat. So that's like what, 3 feet by 6 feet?
Oh, wow, that is incredibly small.
Right. And they are practically sitting on top of each other,
Mm.
sweating, exhausted, and they are fiercely, intensely fighting over one single dictionary.
I mean, that just sounds like a terrible study environment, honestly. It sounds incredibly claustrophobic.
Yeah, you're probably picturing like a modern study cram session gone horribly wrong, maybe the night before finals in a cramped dorm.
To.
But this isn't today. This is 1838. And this sweaty, cramped, intense room is actually the origin story of one of Japan's most prestigious institutions.
That image completely shatters our modern expectation of what elite academia looks like.
It really does.
We are so conditioned to picture ivy-covered walls, sprawling green lawns, and massive quiet libraries. But this narrative, it begins with raw, uncomfortable grit.
And that grit is the central focus of our deep dive today. Our mission is to basically decode the very DNA of Osaka University.
Yeah.
We're going to achieve this by unpacking a specific stack of sources you've shared with us. So we have the March 25th, 2026 Osaka University commencement address, alongside some really fascinating materials about a legendary historical novelist named Shiba Ryotaro and a memorial museum dedicated to his work.
Right, and our goal here is to translate all of this specifically for you. Like, if you were a high school student right now, or simply someone trying to figure out what higher education is actually supposed to accomplish, this deep dive is for you.
Exactly.
We're looking past the glossy college brochures and the arbitrary global rankings to understand a very specific philosophy. It's what they call the Torch of Koan, and their core operating motto, which is live locally, grow globally.
It fundamentally reframes what it means to actually get a degree. And to understand this, we have to start with that 2026 commencement speech.
Yes, we do.
Because a speech of this caliber, it doesn't just say, congratulations on finishing your credits, good luck in the job market.
Not at all. I mean, a commencement address serves as a declaration of a university's core identity.
Right.
It's the president standing before a whole new generation and defining their shared lineage. And to convey that the president traces the university's origins not to a single founding charter, but to an amalgamation of 4 distinct historical currents that sort of merged over time.
So let's break down those 4 currents, because they prove this institution wasn't born as some traditional, stuffy ivory tower that's just isolated from the real world.
Yeah, the diversity of its roots is really what makes it unique. So the first current is Kaitokudo.
Okay.
This was a merchant school in feudal Japan. It wasn't designed for the elite samurai class at all. It was basically a hub for the townspeople that prioritized free, vigorous, open discussion.
Which was radical for its time.
Exactly, quite radical. The second is the Osaka Technical School, which was entirely focused on the mechanics of modern industry, a tangible building and engineering.
Got it.
And then the third current is the Osaka Foreign Languages School, which was rooted in facing the outside world and aggressively crossing linguistic and cultural boundaries.
But it's the fourth current that brings us back to those sleep-deprived teenagers fighting over a dictionary.
Yes. That fourth pillar is Tekijuku.
Opened in 1838 by a man named Ogata Koan. He was a samurai, but more importantly, he was a physician, right?
He was.
Tekijuku was a Dutch studies academy. At the time, Japan was largely closed off, so Western medicine and science entered through Dutch texts. And young people from all over the country migrated to this academy. They gathered in that tiny space, sleeping in spaces the size of one tatami mat, and just debated through the entire night.
They were meticulously translating complex, life-saving Western medical and scientific texts. And because resources were so incredibly scarce, they had to share a single, precious Dutch-Japanese dictionary.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I try to put this into modern terms to really grasp the frustration.
It's hard to imagine, yeah.
Imagine trying to execute a massive, complex group project in high school, right? But your entire group only has access to a single, painfully slow Wi-Fi hotspot, and nobody is allowed to own a personal laptop.
That sounds like an actual nightmare.
Right. You are all huddled around one tiny screen trying to decode dense technical data. So if these students had practically zero personal space and such limited resources, What was the underlying mechanism driving them?
That's the big question.
Like, what forces a human being to study through the night under those conditions?
What's fascinating here is that the drive wasn't about prestige or credentialism.
Okay.
They weren't studying to pass a standardized multiple-choice test to secure some safe corporate job. They were driven by the sheer desperate necessity of practical learning. Japan was facing a looming crisis of Western imperialism and rampant disease. These students were studying to solve visceral life-or-death problems.
So they weren't learning anatomy to get an A+. They were learning anatomy because people in their towns were literally dying of cholera, and they needed to know how the human body actually functioned to stop it?
Precisely. And that intense crucible of purpose,
Yeah.
it yielded massive historical dividends.
Yeah.
Tekijuku produced the Titans, who fundamentally shaped the late Edo period and the Meiji Restoration. People like Yukichi Fukuzawa, who went on to champion Western education and founded Keio University, and Masujiro Omura.
Let's pause on Omura for a second because he didn't just write essays. He completely modernized Japan's military and medical infrastructure.
He really did.
He took the brutal translation skills he honed fighting over that single dictionary at Tekijuku and used them to read Dutch engineering and tactical schematics. Like, he figured out how modern systems worked from the ground up and applied them to a fractured nation.
They absorbed the knowledge they fought for in that cramped room and leveraged it to change the trajectory of an entire country.
It's amazing.
Which transitions us beautifully into how that specific 1838 energy was captured, preserved, and handed down to the present day.
Right.
Because it didn't just fade into a textbook.
Right.
It was immortalized by a legendary historical novelist named Shiba Ryotaro.
The 2026 commencement speech leans heavily on Shiba Ryotaro's words. And there is a deep structural connection here, too.
Yeah, there is.
Shiba himself actually graduated from the Osaka Foreign Languages School, which we just identified as one of the 4 foundational roots of Osaka University.
He is a monumental figure in Japanese literature. He's famous for sweeping multi-volume epics like Clouds Above the Hill.
But the university president deliberately chooses not to quote his massive historical epics, right?
Exactly. Instead, the speech quotes a short essay called The Torch of Koan.
And the fascinating part about this essay, Shiba wrote this specific essay for 6th graders.
Which is wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
A master novelist capable of immense historical complexity, choosing to distill this profound philosophy into language designed for 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
The essay was actually published as part of a piece titled To You Who Live in the 21st Century.
Oh, wow.
By targeting children, Shiba bypassed the cynical filters of adults and spoke directly to the raw potential of the next generation.
The cultural resonance of this essay is honestly staggering. Our sources highlight that people are so moved by this piece of writing that if you browse Nico Nico, which is a major Japanese video sharing platform, you will find videos of fans performing dramatic, impassioned readings of it. Like, it clearly strikes a really deep chord.
It definitely does. And there's a physical space dedicated to that exact legacy, too. The Shiba Ryotaro Memorial Museum in Higashi, Osaka.
Oh, yeah.
But what is striking isn't just that a museum exists. It's how it was designed by the visionary architect Tadao Ando. By the way, the sources specifically note it's a 12-minute walk from Kintetsu Kawachi Osaka Station, which is such a granular detail to include, but it grounds it in reality.
I love that they included the exact walking distance. Our sources describe the architecture as looking like a giant sweeping bookshelf existing in harmony with nature.
It's stunning.
Inside, it houses over 20,000 materials. But the centerpiece is Shiba's actual study preserved immaculately behind glass.
When you look through that glass into his study, you aren't just looking at a room where a man typed "you know."
Right.
You are looking at a space where he mentally interrogated history. The museum's giant bookshelf design acts as a metaphor for the immense weight of accumulated knowledge.
Okay.
He wasn't just cataloging the past, he was actively trying to figure out what the sacrifices of the past demand from us today.
Which brings us to the core mechanism of the essay and the central theme of the commencement speech. The metaphor of the torch of Koanon.
Yes, the torch.
In the essay, Shiba explains that Ogata Koen's absolute happiest moments were not when he was receiving accolades or gaining wealth. His happiest moments were educating his students in that cramped, sweaty tatami room.
Koen received the torch of knowledge from his own mentors, but instead of hoarding it to elevate his own status, he fueled that fire, made it burn brighter, and deliberately passed a spark to every single one of his disciples.
And those disciples, the teenagers fighting over the dictionary, took their individual torches out of that room and used them to illuminate the entirety of modern Japan.
Exactly.
The president quotes Shiba's Esso directly, saying, "There is nothing as beautiful as the life of a person who dedicated themselves to the world." Koen didn't seek fame or profit. He possessed immense intellectual abilities, but he deployed them entirely for the benefit of others.
It's a staggering standard to lay at the feet of a graduating college class, don't you think?
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I am going to push back hard acting as a proxy for you, the listener, right now.
Go for it.
If you are a high school student right now, your reality is brutal. You are stressing about your GPA, agonizing over college applications, worrying about student debt, and looking at a highly competitive, cutthroat job market.
True, very true.
Doesn't this romantic idea of not seeking fame or profit sound completely unrealistic? Like, why should a stressed-out teenager care about being selfless when the capitalist system they're entering demands that they ruthlessly look out for themselves?
That is the crucial question. And if it were just blind, poetic idealism, it would be useless advice, frankly.
Yeah.
But the university president addresses this with a deeply pragmatic, almost mechanical understanding of how human society actually functions over a lifetime.
Oh, okay.
The speech openly acknowledges that the real world is messy. Efforts are frequently unrewarded, failures are inevitable, detours happen.
So how does selflessness survive that messy reality then?
By understanding trust as a tangible social currency. Think about it. If you enter the workforce and optimize entirely for your own advancement, if you only care about your status and your paycheck, you might climb quickly at first.
Sure.
But when you inevitably stumble, or the market shifts, or you fail, wait, let me rephrase that. When things go wrong, nobody's going to reach out to catch you.
Right.
You haven't built a network, you've only built a resume.
You are operating without a safety net, basically.
Exactly. But let's look at the mechanics of selflessness. If you dedicate a portion of your abilities to others, if you actively solve problems for your colleagues without demanding immediate credit, you begin to systematically build authentic trust.
I see.
Over a decade, that trust compounds. It creates a robust, highly resilient safety net. When you face a detour or a failure, the people whose lives you illuminated will be there to support you.
So Koen's selflessness isn't a vow of poverty. It is a highly sustainable network strategy for surviving and thriving in a complex society.
Exactly. It's practical.
That reframes the entire concept. It means your own long-term survival is inextricably linked to how much utility and light you provide to the people immediately around you. Which perfectly bridges into the final part of our deep dive. We've talked about a single teacher passing a torch in 1838. But how does a massive, multi-billion-dollar modern research university operationalize that 180-year-old philosophy on a massive scale?
They operationalize it through their institutional motto: live locally, grow globally.
Let's pull that apart. Live locally, grow globally.
It dictates a very specific sequence of action. It means you cannot skip straight to trying to save the world.
Right.
You must first turn around, face the grassroots, unglamorous problems happening right in your own backyard, and solve them. Only by dissecting and solving the local friction can you discover the universal mechanisms that will scale to the rest of the globe.
The historical evidence for this in our sources is honestly mind-blowing. Let's jump to the 1930s.
Okay.
At the time Osaka University was officially established, the city of Osaka was undergoing a massive chaotic boom. It was called the Manchester of the East.
It was an absolute industrial powerhouse. Factories were churning, the population was exploding, at one point even surpassing Tokyo. But that hypergrowth came with severe localized consequences.
Osaka has always fiercely prided itself on its food culture. But in the 1930s, the city was battling rampant, terrifying outbreaks of food poisoning.
Right.
And because of the dense, crowded housing and industrial smog, tuberculosis was spreading like wildfire. These weren't abstract academic theories. You know, the people living down the street from the university were getting incredibly sick.
And faced with that immediate suffering, the university didn't retreat into theoretical biology. They aggressively targeted the crisis in front of them by establishing the Research Institute for Microbial Diseases.
Oh, wow.
They started mapping the exact pathways of these local infections.
And here is where the live locally transforms into grow globally. Because they were desperately trying to figure out how tuberculosis and foodborne pathogens were destroying the human body locally, they had to map the body's defensive mechanisms. They ended up unlocking foundational secrets of how the human immune system communicates.
They moved from treating the immediate symptom to understanding the underlying cellular mechanism. And our sources highlight that this specific lineage of grassroots research eventually led to the monumental discovery of the cytokine IL-6.
Okay, wait, let's explain what that actually is, because cytokine IL-6 sounds like pure jargon.
It totally does, yeah.
What is it, and why does discovering it actually matter?
So think of a cytokine like a chemical text message that your immune system uses to communicate.
Oh, okay.
And IL-6 specifically is essentially a biological alarm bell. When your body detects an infection, it releases IL-6 to trigger inflammation and fight off the invader.
So generally it's a good thing, right?
Usually, yes, but sometimes that alarm bell gets stuck in the on position.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so your body keeps producing inflammation even when there is no infection. And that leads to devastating autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, where your immune system attacks your own joints.
Oh, I see. So by trying to solve infectious diseases in 1930s, Osaka, they basically figured out how the body's alarm system works.
Precisely.
And once you understand the mechanism of the alarm, you can build a tool to turn it off when it malfunctions.
Exactly. Understanding IL-6 directly led to the development of Japan's first antibody drug, a medication specifically engineered to seek out and block that malfunctioning IL-6 alarm bell,
That is incredible.
bringing relief to millions of people suffering from autoimmune disorders worldwide.
That is the ultimate proof of concept right there. You investigate the local food poisoning, and 90 years later, you are curing autoimmune diseases globally.
It's an unbroken chain.
The commencement speech points out that this exact legacy is why modern researchers from the university, like Dr. Shimon Sakaguchi, have won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine,
Yeah.
and Dr. Shisuo Kira received the Japan Prize. The global accolades are just the trailing indicator of local problem solving.
And this methodology of scaling local solutions extends far beyond medicine and biology, too.
Yeah.
We see it applied strictly to engineering and logistics as well.
Yes. Let's talk about the 1970 Osaka Expo.
Oh, this is a great example.
This massive international event was held in the Suda and Senri area of the city, and the organizers faced a terrifying local problem, which was crowd control.
Huge problem.
How do you physically move unprecedented massive waves of human beings safely through train stations without causing crushes, delays, or physical danger?
It's basically a problem of fluid dynamics, but with unpredictable human behavior thrown in.
Right.
Manual ticket punching was far too slow, and it created dangerous bottlenecks everywhere.
So the university's researchers looked at this local headache and engineered a solution. They created the world's first automated ticket gates, installing them at Kita Senri Station.
Think about the mechanical complexity required to achieve that in 1970. The machine had to accept a magnetic ticket, read the encoded destination data, verify the fare, physically open a set of gates, and return the ticket to the passenger.
All in a fraction of a second.
Exactly, while adapting to people walking at entirely different speeds.
That is wild. Every time you tap a card or slide a ticket to get on a subway, anywhere in London, New York, or Tokyo today, you are interacting with technology born out of a localized attempt to prevent traffic jams at a single station in Osaka.
It's live locally, grow globally in pure action. And fast forward to the 2025 Osaka Kansai Expo.
Okay.
The university continues this exact tradition, but the problems have scaled up massively.
Yeah.
They showcased advanced androids cultured meat to address global food shortages and iPS-derived hearts.
Let's define iPS-derived hearts quickly for the listeners.
Sure.
Because this isn't just a mechanical pump. This is taking a regular cell from a patient's body, like a skin cell, wiping its biological memory so it acts like a blank slate stem cell, and then programming it to grow into beating heart muscle tissue.
That sounds like science fiction.
It really does. It's attempting to solve the devastating local reality of patients dying while waiting on organ transplant lists by creating a universal biological manufacturing process.
And the commencement address also notes that they currently house a massive group of researchers working on the next great frontier of computing, which is quantum computers.
Wow.
They're perpetually standing at the edge of the known world, looking for the next local friction point to solve.
So what does this all mean? Synthesizing everything we've discussed today, it is incredibly similar to being a high school student who notices a deeply frustrating glitch in their school's scheduling app.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right, like the app keeps double booking students for conflicting classes. It's a localized, annoying problem. You sit down, you map the logic, you grind through the code, and you fix it for your classmates.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, you realize the new architectural framework you just built to fix your school's database can actually be deployed to solve server conflict issues for logistics companies around the entire planet.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that analogy perfectly captures the Osaka University spirit.
Yep.
You absolutely cannot generate universal world-shifting technology in a sterilized vacuum. You cannot sit in an isolated ivory tower disconnected from humanity and dream up a global cure.
No, you really can't.
You are required to start by listening to the specific voices, the specific diseases, and the specific logistical nightmares happening in your own immediate neighborhood.
You have to share the dictionary in the tiny, sweaty tatami room first.
You really do. You must engage with the friction of reality right in front of you. That is the only way to genuinely honor the torch of Kohan.
Right.
The instruction isn't to hoard the light to make yourself look impressive. The instruction is to use your light to illuminate the dark, complicated corners of your own community. When you do that effectively, the light naturally and inevitably spreads to the rest of the world.
This has been such a profound reframing of what education means. To wrap this all up for you, the listener. Wait, let me rephrase that. To wrap this all up, what we've uncovered in this deep dive is that truly engaging with higher education is not a transactional exchange.
Not at all.
It is not about paying tuition to extract a piece of paper so you can buff up your resume and demand a high salary. Going to college is about consciously choosing to step into a vast chain of history.
Well said.
It's about recognizing that the knowledge you are being handed was fought for bitterly by people who came before you. You are accepting a torch that has been burning continuously since a tiny, cramped one-tatami room in 1838.
Yeah.
And your responsibility isn't just to hold that torch and admire it. Your responsibility is to locate the messy, complicated problems right in your own backyard and use that localized fire to eventually light up the world.
As we conclude today, I want to leave you with a final question to ponder on your own. We spent a lot of time discussing historical giants, Nobel laureates, and novelists passing the torch.
We have.
But I want you to think about yourself right now. If you had to identify your own specific torch, your unique passion, your slightly quirky interest, or that one hyper-specific skill you have that nobody else quite understands, what does it look like?
I love that.
And more importantly, what specific overlooked problem in your own neighborhood are you going to use it to illuminate?